Queen Shajar al-Durr was an influential and remarkable figure in Egyptian history, known for her rise to power during the 13th century. Born around 1220, she was a Turkish slave who became the wife of Sultan as-Salih Ayyub, the ruler of Egypt. Shajar al-Durr's name, which means tree of pearls, was derived from her beauty and grace, which were likened to pearls in many historical records. Her early life remains largely mysterious, but it is believed that she was captured during a military campaign and sold into slavery in Egypt. Shajar al-Durr's remarkable intelligence, charm, and talents caught the attention of the Sultan, and she became one of his trusted concubines. Over time, she gained significant influence at the royal court and eventually became his wife, a position that gave her a prominent status in the Ayyubid dynasty. In 1249, tragedy struck when Sultan as-Salih Ayyub passed away. His death occurred during the tumult of the Seventh Crusade, led by the French king, Louis IX. The situation was precarious as the Crusaders were making significant progress in their siege of Egypt. Shajar al-Durr, instead of retreating or being sidelined as a widow, took on the mantle of leadership. She managed to keep the Sultanate intact and was instrumental in organizing the defense of Egypt against the Crusaders. Shajar al-Durr's abilities were evident in her political and military maneuvers. She was able to secretly secure the release of her husband's general, who had been imprisoned, and convinced him to rally the military forces against the Crusaders. Her leadership was key in organizing Egypt's defense and ultimately defeating the Crusaders in the Battle of Mansourah in 1250, a pivotal victory that ended the Seventh Crusade. This victory solidified her position as a capable and effective ruler. In the wake of the battle, Shajar al-Durr made a bold move to assume power. She declared herself the Sultan of Egypt, becoming the first woman to rule the country in its history. Her reign, however, was brief. Although Shajar al-Durr was a powerful figure, she faced internal opposition from some of the military leaders and the ruling elite, who were not comfortable with a woman in charge. Her rule ended when she married a powerful military commander, Aybak, who was the head of the Mamluk forces. Shajar al-Durr's marriage to Aybak marked the beginning of the Mamluk dynasty in Egypt. Aybak assumed the title of Sultan, but Shajar al-Durr maintained significant influence in the court, wielding power behind the scenes. However, the political landscape in Egypt remained volatile. In 1257, she was reportedly involved in a struggle for power with Aybak's other wives, and soon after, she was imprisoned and eventually executed under mysterious circumstances. Her death was likely politically motivated, as some believe she was murdered by her own husband, who sought to eliminate her influence after securing his position as Sultan. Despite her tragic end, Shajar al-Durr's legacy lives on as a symbol of female power and resilience. Her reign marked an important moment in the history of Egypt, as she demonstrated that a woman could rise to power in a male-dominated society and lead with authority. Shajar al-Durr's story has been remembered for her military strategy, political acumen, and her ability to navigate the treacherous world of medieval Egyptian politics. After Shajar al-Durr's death, the political landscape of Egypt continued to be shaped by her influence, despite her relatively short reign. The Mamluks, the military caste that she had helped elevate to power, would go on to dominate Egyptian politics for centuries, marking a new era in Egypt's history. Her marriage to Aybak had cemented the Mamluk dynasty's rise to power, and it is often noted that without her initial maneuvering and leadership, the Mamluks might not have been able to secure control as quickly as they did. Shajar al-Durr's life and legacy also served as a precursor to the role that women could play in the political and military spheres of the medieval Islamic world. Although her reign was short-lived, her ability to govern effectively in a time of crisis demonstrated her extraordinary capabilities as a ruler. Her intelligence and strategic foresight in the face of external threats, like the Crusaders, remain some of her most celebrated achievements. Scholars and historians have long debated the nature of her leadership and the challenges she faced as a female ruler in a deeply patriarchal society. Shajar al-Durr's ability to secure her position and navigate the dangerous dynamics of the court and the military suggests that she was not only politically astute, but also a resilient and formidable leader. While she faced opposition from male counterparts who were eager to reclaim control, her initial success as Sultana was a testament to her extraordinary skill and determination. The mystery surrounding her death continues to captivate historians and those interested in medieval Islamic history. While it is widely believed that her death was orchestrated by Aibak or his supporters, the exact details remain unclear, adding an element of intrigue to her already complex and turbulent life. Her tragic end has contributed to her mystique as a powerful woman in a time when female rulers were rare, and her story has often been portrayed as one of tragedy and triumph. In the broader context of Islamic history, Shajar al-Durr's reign and her rise from slavery to power were exceptional. She proved that the social and political structures of the time, although predominantly patriarchal, could sometimes accommodate extraordinary individuals. Shajar al-Durr's legacy reminds us of the influence that women have had throughout history, even in societies where their roles were often relegated to the margins. Today, her story continues to be a subject of interest for historians and feminists alike, as an example of both the challenges and triumphs of female leadership in a world dominated by men. Despite the passing centuries, Shajar al-Durr's name is remembered as one of the most powerful and intriguing figures in medieval Egyptian history. Shajar al-Durr's influence extended beyond her immediate reign and death, continuing to resonate through Egyptian history and the broader Muslim world. Her role in defending Egypt against the Crusaders and her pivotal contributions to the Mamluk dynasty's rise to power remain central to discussions about the era's political dynamics. While she did not leave a direct lineage on the throne, her actions laid the groundwork for the Mamluks' continued dominance over Egypt. The Mamluk Sultanate, which emerged shortly after Shajar al-Durr's time, would last for several centuries, with the Mamluks eventually establishing a strong military and political presence. Though the Mamluks were initially military slaves, they would eventually become rulers, influencing the course of Egyptian and even broader Islamic history. Shajar al-Durr's role in this transition was crucial, as she helped solidify the Mamluk military caste's political power in the wake of her brief reign. In many ways, the Mamluks took inspiration from her tactical success in military and political leadership, using these as a foundation for their future rule. Shajar al-Durr's life also left an indelible mark on cultural and social narratives, especially concerning the role of women in Islamic society. In a period when women's roles in politics were often restricted, her ascent to the throne broke significant barriers. Though her reign was short, it marked a moment in Aibak, her husband, solidified Mamluk control by becoming the first official Mamluk Sultan of Egypt. However, the Mamluks' early history is marked by tensions between military factions, and many historians believe Shajar al-Durr's role in stabilizing Egypt was critical to the long-term survival of Mamluk rule. Without her strategic decisions during the Seventh Crusade and her subsequent leadership, it is unclear whether the Mamluks would have been able to consolidate power as swiftly as they did. Moreover, the Mamluk Sultanate's ability to continue thriving after Shajar al-Durr's death, despite her absence, speaks to the institutional strength of the military caste she helped elevate. In fact, it could be argued that her reign, though brief, revealed the deepening power of the Mamluks, who would rule Egypt for nearly 250 years, maintaining dominance over the region's politics and military. The Mamluks created a system of governance where military prowess, rather than bloodlines or traditional hereditary succession, was paramount. This was a significant departure from other monarchies and demonstrates the unusual and often unstable nature of power in Mamluk Egypt. Shajar al-Durr's legacy also resonates in the context of Islamic scholarship and the portrayal of women in medieval Islamic texts. Though historical records from her time were often written by male historians, her rule was generally portrayed with admiration for her intellect, resolve, and leadership skills, despite the fact that she was a woman. This contrasts with the often marginalization of women in many other historical accounts, which tended to focus on male figures and their achievements. Shajar al-Durr's presence in the historical record, although sometimes clouded by controversy, has nonetheless ensured her place as one of the most intriguing and notable women in Islamic history. The manner of her death, however, remains a subject of historical debate. It has been suggested that Ibak, her husband, orchestrated her murder, fearing her growing power and influence in court. The political intrigue and machinations surrounding her end underscore the dangers faced by women who dare to hold power in highly patriarchal societies. This element of her life story, while tragic, also highlights the often cutthroat nature of politics in medieval Egypt, where even the most accomplished rulers could face threats from within their own ranks. Her execution remains an unresolved mystery to this day, with some suggesting she was strangled or otherwise killed on orders from those who wished to remove her from the political stage. This dark chapter in her life serves as a reminder of the fragile nature of power, even for the most capable leaders. Her death, by all accounts, marked a turning point in the political landscape of Egypt, but it did not erase her impact on the region. In the centuries since her death, Shajar al-Durr has been a source of fascination for scholars, poets, and historians alike. Her life challenges the traditional narratives of women in medieval Islamic societies and proves that, despite the limitations placed on them, some women were able to ascend to extraordinary heights of power. The significance of her reign, while short, lies in the trail she blazed as a woman who was not only able to hold power in a time of crisis, but also made lasting contributions to her society. Today, Shajar al-Durr's story continues to resonate in the ongoing conversation about gender and leadership. While the historical record may have been incomplete or biased, modern scholarship is increasingly uncovering the importance of her legacy, ensuring that her role in Egypt's history is not forgotten. By studying her life, we gain valuable insights into the complexities of political power, the possibilities for women in history, and the resilience of those who defied the expectations of their time. Through this, Shajar al-Durr lives on, not just as a historical figure, but as a symbol of perseverance and strength in the face of adversity. History when a woman not only wielded political power, but also commanded respect as a leader in wartime, challenging the gender norms of the time. Despite being overshadowed by the later success of the Mamluk sultans, her story continues to inspire discussions about gender and power dynamics in medieval Islamic societies. The mystery surrounding Shajar al-Durr's death also invites reflection on the challenges women faced even after achieving power. It is clear that she was an extremely capable and effective ruler, but her reign was marred by betrayal and struggles for dominance. This complexity in her legacy underscores the difficulties faced by female leaders in a world where male-dominated power structures were entrenched. The manner of her death, attributed to political machinations, also highlights the often precarious position of women in the highest echelons of power, where they could easily be marginalized or eliminated once their usefulness had passed. The intrigue surrounding her death and the political maneuvering that followed it also reflects the volatility of the medieval Islamic world, particularly within the confines of the Ayyubid and Mamluk dynasties. After Shajar al-Durr's passing, Egypt would see a transition between dynasties, with the Mamluks taking over. But her role in navigating the treacherous waters of court politics, military command, and governance continues to serve as a symbol of both opportunity and peril for future female rulers. Shajar al-Durr remains an iconic figure in the annals of Egyptian history, her story a testament to the complexities of leadership, power, and gender in a deeply hierarchical society. While her reign may have been short, the fact that she was able to steer Egypt through a critical time in its history, protecting it from foreign invaders, marks her as one of the most remarkable figures of the medieval period. Over the years, her story has transcended the historical record, inspiring countless interpretations of her character and role in shaping the trajectory of Egypt and the wider region. Her legacy, both celebrated and contested, has sparked interest from historians, feminists, and scholars of Islamic history, illustrating the profound impact that one woman's actions can have on the course of history, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. Shajar al-Durr's legacy has been increasingly recognized and revisited in modern scholarship, particularly as more attention is given to the roles women have played in history, especially in the context of Islamic governance. Her story provides an important case study in the complexities of political leadership, particularly as it pertains to gender and the precarious position of female rulers in a male-dominated society. While she was not the first woman to wield political influence in the Islamic world, her rise to power, military leadership, and subsequent downfall are unique, making her a subject of ongoing interest for both historians and feminists alike. Her ability to ascend from slavery to the Sultan of Egypt underscores the potential for social mobility within the medieval Islamic world, particularly among the Mamluks, who were originally military slaves but could rise to power. This unique structure of governance allowed individuals, regardless of their social standing or origin, to ascend to the highest positions of authority, something that Shajar al-Durr took full advantage of. However, her example also serves as a reminder of how precarious such power was for women, especially in the face of entrenched patriarchal structures. In the years following her death, the Mamluk Sultanate consolidated its power and became one of the most powerful states in the Islamic world, with a military and political system that would dominate Egypt for centuries. However, the legacy of Shajar al-Durr's brief rule continued to echo through the history of the Mamluks. Some historians argue that her leadership, particularly her handling of the Crusader threat, set a model for future Mamluk sultans, showing that Egypt could be defended not only through traditional military tactics, but also through strategic diplomacy and military alliances. Her legacy as a military leader is significant because it highlighted that women, too, could possess the strategic acumen required to lead a country during times of war. While much of her story was lost to history for a time, the modern interest in Shajar al-Durr has led to a renewed exploration of her role. Her achievements, particularly the fact that she was able to protect Egypt from foreign invasion while maintaining her position of power for a short period, place her in the ranks of other influential female figures in history, such as Queen Elizabeth I or Empress Theodora of Byzantium. These women, like Shajar al-Durr, navigated political landscapes rife with both external threats and internal challenges. Yet, they managed to assert their authority and leave their mark on history despite the barriers they faced. Shajar al-Durr's reign and eventual downfall reflect the precarious nature of political power for women in medieval societies. The murder or forced removal of powerful women like her was not uncommon, and her tragic end illustrates the danger that women in positions of power often faced, even when they had proven their leadership and worth. Despite her untimely death, Shajar al-Durr's contributions to Egypt's defense against the Crusaders and her ability to navigate the court politics of the time ensure that her name endures as an example of both power and vulnerability. In the context of Islamic history, Shajar al-Durr also represents a challenge to the prevailing narratives about women in leadership. While she is often overshadowed by male rulers and generals, her story illustrates the agency and influence women could exert, even in societies where their rights were often limited. Shajar al-Durr's rule, though short, demonstrates that women have historically held significant roles in the defense of their nations, in political intrigue, and in the shaping of dynasties, roles that are too often overlooked in traditional historical accounts. Today, Shajar al-Durr stands as both a symbol of women's power in medieval history and as a reminder of the ongoing struggles women face in breaking through the barriers of patriarchal societies. Her story continues to inspire those who study the intersection of gender, power, and leadership, providing a powerful example of how a woman, against the odds, rose to the highest office in one of the most important civilizations of the medieval world. Shajar al-Durr's story also holds significant implications for understanding the dynamics of power within the Mamluk Sultanate. The Mamluks, a military class originally composed of enslaved soldiers, were central to her rule and would ultimately become the dominant force in Egypt after her death. Shajar al-Durr's position as Sultana highlighted the fluidity of power in the Mamluk system. The Mamluks were not hereditary rulers, which meant that power often shifted through military support and political maneuvering, rather than a fixed dynastic line. In this context, her rule demonstrated how temporary and volatile power could be, especially for someone like her, whose position had been established more through political necessity than by dynastic right. Though her reign was short-lived, Shajar al-Durr's influence on the Mamluk Sultanate's early years was substantial. After her death,